Welcome to My Morning Cup, a podcast produced by Costa Media Advisors and brought to you by the generous support of the Tennessee Valley Authority. To learn more about TVA's impact on our community, follow TVA on Instagram at TVA and on Twitter X at TVA News. My Morning Cup, where we have interesting conversations with genuine people. I'm Mike Costa, your host. My guest this week is Jed Mescon. Longtime Chattanoogans will remember Jed from his years of anchoring the morning news on WRCB-TV. Jed left media for more than 7 years and is now back as program director and morning host of Talk 102.3 Radio. Jed, welcome to My Morning Cup. Before we talk about how you have a connection to Mo Howard or the Three Stooges, let me ask, what's in your morning cup?
I'm going to tell you, one of the best things that's ever happened to me, my doctor was Bill Moore Smith, very nice person. He said, Jed, the best thing you can do for yourself every day is drink Metamucil. It's been the most freeing experience I've ever had in my life. It's the best thing to ever happen. And everybody says, how are you so happy in the morning? I'm just like,
Metamucil.
Metamucil in my cup.
But you're not a coffee drinker, are you?
Used to be.
Yeah.
But I do like Coke Zero. I like Mellow Yellow Zero, Diet Mellow Yellow, which is not good for me to drink.
You don't need Mellow Yellow.
Yeah, I know. But I'm kind of into tea now. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just bought some tea. And then I got into the shake drinks, like the 160 calories, which is, that's just horrible.
Might as well drink chalk and water.
Oh, God, it's just really bad. But I have a huge appetite, but I don't eat much in the morning. But my morning cup is definitely Metamucil.
Well, I look forward to seeing a picture of your My Morning Cup filled to the brim.
I'm going to send it to you.
It will be freeing.
I am sending it to you tonight.
Well, we want to talk about your career because you're a longtime broadcaster, and I learned some things about you that I didn't know before. Now, were you born and raised in Atlanta, or you just grew up there?
Born, raised in Atlanta. I left to go to Arizona State.
Well, I want to stop you before you get to Arizona State. I want to find out about the king of the annual spring candy sale at your elementary school.
Let me just tell you, I went to the Hebrew Academy of Atlanta.
Yeah.
And Passover candy was a huge thing. And I lived in a neighborhood where there was no Jewish people.
And this was a school fundraiser?
Oh, yeah, school fundraiser. And just because of who I am and the neighbors love me, non-Jewish people bought Passover candy like it was going out of style.
Yeah.
I was the king of Passover sales among non-Jewish people. I had no Jewish people in my neighborhood. And I sold them Passover candy, buddy. They loved it.
2 questions. What kind of candy was it, and what was your technique?
It was toffee candy.
Oh.
It was really good. And, you know, Passover food is kind of boring. It's gotten much better the year since. But
There's not
this had nuts on it.
Not a lot of Passover restaurants out there?
No. Have you ever been to a Passover Seder?
No, I haven't. I'd like to, though.
You know what? I would love to have you come.
Oh,
we have
honored.
like 35 people.
Oh, that'd be great.
And it's very quick. You know, you tell the story of the Jewish exile from Egypt. But the food, you know, you don't eat bread, and everything is made with matzah meal.
Yeah.
But this candy was outstanding. Whether you're Jewish or not, it was great candy, and it's still being made today. But I was selling it for $1.30 a box back in the late 1960s.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
It was the start of a hell of a career.
But what were you doing? Going door to door? Were you
Absolutely
sitting up a stand?
door to door.
Were you
Oh,
carnival barker?
This was the days where, I mean, they loved me. They would invite me in and talk to me. And, you know, I had a schedule to keep. So I was going from house to house. And I could easily knock out maybe 35 homes in a couple of afternoons.
So you're a salesman at heart.
You know what? I should have been a salesman all along because I'm very gifted at that.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I never did that. And I realized how fun and enjoyable and productive sales can be when I was doing my own radio shows and I was selling my own time.
Yeah.
And you realize if you take care of your client, you treat them like they're the only person in the room for the rest of your life, they'll just sign up the next year and keep signing up and signing up. And I have people like Mark Warren, the attorney, Mark Cromie,
Yep.
who's an allergist. They always believed in me, and they were the first to sign up to do my radio shows, and I'll never, ever forget them.
I'm one who believes that everyone's in sales.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every day you're selling yourself. You're selling a lot of different things, and some people's comfort with it is greater than others, but in every position you're really in sales.
You know, I was in the TV news business, and I would get on the chief photographer for years and say, you got to keep these cars clean.
Yeah.
I mean, they're moving billboards. I was so big on that, and I was so big on the lobby looking good and the studio, because when people would walk into a TV studio, I should say, you know, they expect it to look like it does on network.
Well, what I used to tell our salespeople, and I want to get to how you got started in TV, but what I used to tell our salespeople is that you got to remember that if you can get a client into the studio, it's a big deal.
And
because
they're sold on it. It's fascinating.
It's magic.
It is.
They go home and they're at dinner and they say, you know where I was today? I was in a TV studio. And you know that weather that they do? That's a green wall. It's something that just kind of pulls the curtain back.
To this day, I remember 1965, 66, WSB out of Atlanta had the Popeye Club. Oh my God, it was the greatest time ever. I would go and, you know, it was shot at 4:00 in the afternoon, and Officer Don, and he had a puppet named Orville, and it was at WSB. I mean, white columns in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And just to walk in that studio and see the lights and the air conditioning, it was freezing inside, and just to see the cameras. I mean, that was fun. That was some great times.
And that's how you got your start, right?
It really
you
was.
You were hosting a kid show?
Actually,
or a quiz show.
That's where the enthusiasm started.
Yeah.
I've always liked to be an actor. I've always enjoyed doing plays, but I had a chance when I was 16 to host a kids TV show at WSB called Super 2. And
what was Super 2?
it was just a 30-minute game show. We would play different games. It would be, you know, different spelling things. It was just like your typical kid show in the 1970s.
And you were 16?
16.
How'd you get that job?
A friend of our family's was starting this show, and her name was Spring Asher. I still remember her.
It's a great name.
I hope she's doing well now. But she asked me if I would be interested in hosting this show, and we knocked out like 6 or 7 episodes.
Did you have any experience to that point? Or was this just your personality?
Theater. Just personality, just doing children's shows, just acting.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
How long did you do that?
We did it for like 3 years.
Wow.
It was really good fun. It was called Super 2, and it was on from like 11 to 11:30 Saturday mornings on WSB.
Is that what lit your flame or passion for broadcasting?
I'm telling you, it was those 1965, 66 visits to the Popeye Club.
Yeah.
And seeing Officer Don.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to him on PBS for years. He did a PBS show out of Atlanta, Don Kennedy.
Don Kennedy. And I would imagine they'd show cartoons in between. You had the kids' studio audience.
Oh, yeah. And then his puppet was Orville. It was a dragon. And then they gave out, they gave out great gifts. I mean, It was just so much fun.
And those kids shows were predominant in the 60s. You know, obviously here we had Miss Marsha.
Yeah.
And
there was another one on WAGA in Atlanta with Mr. Pix.
Yeah.
He was one of the first anchors for CNN.
Oh, wow. So
it's a great show.
You're doing the kids show hosting at 16, and it's time to go to college. And you decided to keep it simple and fly across the country and go to Arizona State.
Well, let me tell you, all of a sudden I became interested in being an emergency medical technician and working on an ambulance. Oh, wow. I had a friend in Atlanta whose father, he was a judge, and his name was Judge Kaplan. But on the side, he was a rescue fanatic, and he would go to every big emergency in Atlanta and offer his emergency medical technician services. And that's how and he used to ask me if I wanted to ride with him sometimes.
Was he doing this in an official capacity or listening to the scanner and going,
there's one? Scanner. He had a car. He had all the equipment. And he was very, very well known in Atlanta, Judge Kaplan.
Interesting.
And he was.
So you'd tag along?
Oh my God. It was like I was in a dream state.
Yeah.
And that's really where I got hooked and becoming an emergency medical technician. So I went to my senior year in high school. I went to Atlanta Area Technical School and became an emergency medical technician.
Really? You're an EMT?
I'm an EMT.
Have you kept it up at all?
I did it for like 5 years. It's the best job I ever had. Metro ambulance. I still talk to some of the guys every once in a while, but we work 24-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So that's why I can get up.
Yeah.
I never press the snooze button. So we worked at different locations, different stations.
Yeah.
And I would work 24-hour shifts. I made $75 for 24 hours. But we had the nicest ambulances, and it was the greatest job.
So when you said you did that for 5 years, did you do that?
I did that when I came back from Arizona State on spring break or summer break.
So you didn't delay going to Arizona State?
No, I went to Georgia State.
Okay.
My first year, my freshman year, and then went to Arizona State my sophomore year through.
Why Arizona State?
Actually, my brother was teaching management out there.
Interesting.
And he says, you need to come out to Arizona State. So I went to Arizona State.
Did you choose journalism or broadcasting, or did you?
Now it's the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. Back then it was just communications, journalism.
Yeah.
Didn't really try that hard in school.
Yeah.
Which was a downfall. If I was doing it all over again, I certainly would have.
Yeah, I think we could all say that, though.
Yeah, one thing I did want my senior year, they had an opening for Columbia Pictures. They needed a PR person to represent Columbia Pictures on the Arizona State campus. It's really, my grades weren't, I don't know. I didn't think I was going to get the job, but I wanted it.
Yeah.
And when you're obsessive compulsive, things like that happen.
Are you obsessive compulsive?
Oh, absolutely, man. And I got the job. So
Did
it was
you?
like they paid $1,500 for a whole year. That was pretty good in 1982.
Yeah. What would you have to do?
Promote movies like horrible movies like, Annie was Columbia Pictures. Do you remember Neighbors?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that movie?
Bill.
Yes.
Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. Yeah.
Richard Pryor, Live on the Sunset Strip was a movie I had to promote. Yeah. Absence of Malice.
Ooh,
do you remember that was Sally Field?
Yeah.
Was Sally Field in that one?
I think so.
But that
Sally
was
Field
one
and
of
Paul Newman, maybe.
Yeah, that was one of the movies that I had to promote. So I had to promote these movies on campus. It was great. And then when I graduated, I went to Columbia Pictures to meet my boss. That was fascinating to go behind the scenes.
So you went out to Los Angeles?
Yeah, and I love that. See, I've always been fascinated by that.
Were you wanting to get a job?
Yeah, trying for a job. There wasn't anything back then.
Yeah, because that was, 83 maybe?
Yeah, it was, summer of 82.
Summer of 82.
But when I was a kid, I remember going to L.A. and my parents would take me to like Universal Studios in the back lots.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, there's Leave It to Beaver's house, and there's the Munsters, and there's the Psycho house, and this is Adam 12. I mean, that's just who I am. I would love doing that. And now my daughter works on the sets in L.A.
Did she go to Arizona State also?
Well, she went to Elon.
Elon, great school.
Yeah, I'm so proud of her. So proud of my daughter. So she was a page for NBC when she graduated from Elon and worked in
New York
LA.
or Los Angeles?
She had the job in New York, but wanted to go to LA. So they moved her to LA and she worked the Tonight Show.
Oh,
Jay Leno.
Very cool.
And there are tens of thousands of people that apply to be a page for NBC. It's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just so proud of her that she got that.
So how did you get into local television and local news? Because you're kind of gone a PR path and more entertainment than...
I came back in 1982, the summer. And actually, I need to say during high school, I was always fascinated by radio as well. And I used to work summers volunteering. The news person's name at Ring Radio, WRNG Radio, was Herb Gershon. And he was just so kind to me, and he let me hang out with him.
Yeah.
But Ring Radio was big back in the 70s and 80s in Atlanta. That's where Ludlow Porch got his start. Neil Bortz.
Yeah.
I mean, they were all at Ring Radio. It was located on Peachtree Street.
Was it a news talk format?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I that's where I really got the radio bug. So I graduated, came back to Atlanta in the summer of 82, and I went to work at WPLO and V103 radio stations in Atlanta.
WPLO.
Can you imagine a Jewish guy working for call letters, Palestinian Liberation, WPLO and V103. And V103 is urban contemporary black station, huge in Atlanta back in the 80s. I mean, huge. It's still huge now.
Yeah.
But it was owned by Abe Plow.
Oh, see, I grew up in Memphis. I know exactly who Abe Plow is.
So Abe Plow was brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
So he made Correctol, Digel, Coppertone, the orange baby aspirin. So how did he sell those products? He bought radio stations.
Yep.
So I worked for WPLO AM and V103, and I prepared the news overnight for Herb, who would come in.
So you were his producer.
Yeah, I would call all over the country and get sound bites and have it all stacked up. I could see the carts, and I had the lead-ins, and it was my foray into radio.
What time would you have to get there to get all that done?
Oh, it was great. 11 o'clock at night.
So you worked overnight.
In Atlanta in 1983, and they had the news car I could use whenever I wanted. It was a big station wagon with amber lights all over it. I was just loving this. I was absolutely loving that job. And I'd go out and do press conferences, and it was really enjoyable. And you know what? I regret not seeing Herb later on in life, and I just waited and waited and waited. And every time I went back home, I'd say, I'll stop and see Herb, and I'll do it next time. Too late.
That's too bad.
He died.
Yeah.
So, you never forget those who helped you along the way, because it's very rare. And a lot of people really don't remember those who helped them along the way and thank them.
And everyone's got someone or some
appropriately.
people who have helped them along the way, because you can't do it on your own.
I, to this day, thank Bill Wallace, who was my news director at Channel 3. This is a great story. So he was my news director 22 years at Channel 3. This is a man that took a risk on my personality. Consultants would say, Jed's got that polarizing personality. They either hate him or they love him. It's like, okay, I get it. It was a great morning show. We had so much fun. But I worked in Savannah for 6 months at WSAV-TV. And I remember the news director distinctly, and I remember the cologne that he wore. But there were 2 reporters there, myself, another reporter, and we were both Jewish people. He fired both of us in the same week. I've only been there like 6 months.
This television or radio?
It's TV, WSAV television. My first on-air reporting job.
So you went from Atlanta to WS?
Yeah, but I wanted to be a reporter.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you in a moment. So I was at WSAV, and this other guy, Andy Behrens, I remember his name, a great guy. We were both fired. I'm like, Andy, what's going on, man? We're both Jewish, and he let us both go? Something ain't right. And it turned out he was not a nice man.
Yeah.
This news director. So fast forward about 24 years, and I walk into the Channel 3 newsroom, and there's that smell, that cologne. And I go, like they do on, like Seinfeld when he goes, Newman.
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 Yeah.
And I'm like,
hello, Newman.
That's Dave. I knew that's Dave. And it was. He was sitting in Bill Wallace's news office, and he was asking for a job. And I walked in, and he goes, Jed Mescon. I'm like,
hello, Newman.
hello, Newman. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I'm really sorry what happened to you back in 1984, Jed. I'm like, yeah, really? And he goes, he looks at Bill Wallace, and he goes, you hired Jed? Bill Wallace goes, probably the best hire I've ever made in my life. And I'm like, Bill, to this day, I love that man.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's ever said anything like that about me or to anyone else. And I will never forget Bill Wallace. And to this day, we go out to lunch. It's like, I can't believe that, because I'm not big around authority figures.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, for some reason, I have very low self-esteem when it comes to authority figures.
Yeah.
I am myself around Bill, which is really nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
I wish I was like that with a lot of people, but I'm not.
So I'm going to assume Dave didn't get the job.
Hell no. He was from West Virginia, some Yahoo town in West Virginia. All right. So then I was working in radio. Then I got a job. Oh, this is great. I got a job.
So after Savannah, you went back?
No. So we're still at the radio station for about a year and a half or so.
WPLO
V103. There's a job opening at WXIA. Of course, I wanted to go work at WXIA. The helicopter, the news helicopter landed on the roof at
cool
WXIA. It was the greatest place in the world. And I love John Pruitt. John Pruitt was a big news anchor in Atlanta, and he had moved from WSB to WXIA. And I said, oh, man, I want to go to work at XIA. So they hired me as the evening assignment editor.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
that's a tough job.
No idea. Come on, at WXIA in Atlanta giving people in the business.
Did you realize how tough a job that is?
Oh, I had no idea. And it's like, here I am giving these people who have been in the industry forever their assignments for the night.
You're like the dispatcher. You're telling who to go cover what.
I would sit in a news meeting and go, okay, all right. And I remember the first day on the job, it was like, all right, we got a Braves game. I need this crew to go and do the Braves game. And I didn't send the live unit. It's like, yeah, I guess that would help to send a live truck. I mean, it was a great learning experience, and they could not have been nicer, that group of employees. Wayne Williams would call every night.
Oh, the Atlanta serial killer. Yeah.
Because he would talk to one of the reporters. I mean, I worked with Harmon Wages. Remember Harmon Wages?
I remember the name.
But Deborah Norville and Harmon Wages were dating, and they were both wearing matching fur coats. And I mean, it was just surreal being around back then. But you know what I did on the weekends? I went in on the weekends and volunteered my time to go out with every photographer, because I know they were working alone, and I would write VOSOTs or voiceovers.
Now, why did you do that?
Because I wanted to be a reporter. I think I wanted to work a desk the rest of my life. That's not me.
How long were you assignment editor?
Probably a year and a half, 2 years.
And that's when you got your break to go to Savannah?
So that's when there was an opening, and the reporters and the photographers would help me.
Yeah.
They'd help me put together an audition tape.
Yeah.
And then there was an opening in Savannah.
What are you, about 23, maybe?
I think I was there in 85, maybe 84. So I went to Savannah, and it was some low pay. I mean, I was making, I think, probably $22,000 at XIA. And when I went to Savannah at WSAV, it dropped. Whoa, it dropped thousands of dollars.
Yeah, probably below 20.
Wow. But I was a reporter.
Yeah. Chasing the dream.
I'm having to shoot my own stories too, which was wow.
And this is not when cameras are compact.
No, they were heavy.
Yeah.
They were huge.
Yeah.
But I lasted there for six months, got fired. And I guess everybody says that you haven't really been a part of the news business till you've been fired at least once.
That's true.
It was a horrible experience.
Yeah.
Then I found an opening in Charleston, South Carolina.
How soon after?
Oh, I was obsessive compulsive.
Yeah.
I wanted this job. I did not want to be unemployed. So I think I was unemployed for maybe a month.
Yeah.
But I found a job opening at WCSC, which means Charleston, South Carolina, Channel 5. And it was a powerhouse in Charleston. It'd been number one for decades.
Yeah, to have those call letters.
And it was owned by the Rivers family, and they lived like behind the station. And if you've ever been to Charleston, it's blue blood territory.
Yeah.
And, I was covering every one of their
events,
family events, and everything that they were related to. And, man, you talk about stress to make sure you interview the right people and get the right. But I worked. It was Night Beat. It was like Jed Mescon, Night Beat. I'm like, listen to that, Night Beat. And so actually I was a hard news reporter back then.
Let me ask you about your obsessive compulsive and
absolutely. We have a whole family of it.
But pursuing a job. How did that translate into pursuing a job? Were you calling them every day?
Calling them. And back then I sent Western Union telegrams.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah.
What would they say?
Still very interested. Can I please just come and meet with you? I will be there tomorrow. I'll drive there. When you get obsessive, when you're on to something, it's hard to, it's like a hound dog.
Yeah. How to let loose.
Yeah. And I remember, it was, WCSC was an interesting time. I was there for about 3.5 years, and I did the Night Beat.
And you were doing hard news.
I was doing hard news. And I'll never forget an anchor who was very nice. His name was Tim Lake. And he was very helpful with me with grammar and writing. And I'll never forget. I'd like to talk to Tim. But there were some great reporters that did, Kevin Rosen, and there was a lot of people there that did very well. They went to major markets.
So 3 years in South Carolina.
3 years. And I was the Spoleto reporter. Spoleto is the big arts festival that happens in May.
That's what it is, yeah.
Oh, man. John Carlo Minotti, who founded Spoleto, he loved me. So it was an interesting time to cover all of the arts. I mean, I did, for 3 or 4 weeks, I covered every art event in that city in Charleston. It was a great time to be there.
And did you go from Charleston to Chattanooga? So
then it's like, this news director, this news director was just absolutely just crazy. He's a big smoker and a yeller and a pencil thrower and just, what was his name? Don somebody.
But that was almost the culture in TV back then.
A
lot of yellers, a lot of hard living people.
Where they smoke in their offices and in the newsroom. And he got in trouble. He and the general manager got in trouble. Actually, they did time in federal prison.
I'd say that's trouble.
They set up a fake company within the company to sell time, like satellite time. Yeah, they got in trouble.
Yeah, I'd say.
So I'm like, good for you. See it, Don. Everything comes around. So then there was an opening in Chattanooga. They were looking for a feature reporter. I wouldn't do this today because I'm a huge animal lover. I'm a huge proponent of animals, but this was donkey basketball.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
One of the best things my wife has given me is the love of animals, just how to treat animals. So I would have never have done this story now, but it was a pretty good story on donkey basketball, and that's what got me into Chattanooga. They love that story, and they go, we'll hire you to be a feature reporter, and we want you to do Jed's Journals, a feature story 5 days a week.
And this is when Bill Wallace was news director, or did you?
No, this was Lee Meredith.
Oh, I know Lee.
Lee, Lee's the one who hired me.
I didn't realize Lee hired you.
Was the assignment editor.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Did you have to use your obsessive compulsive technique to get the job, or was it a little more direct?
This was a little direct and it was a quick sell.
Good.
Quick sell.
How long did you think you'd be here?
Well, can I be honest with you? I came to Chattanooga because I still was in love with a girl who broke my heart at Arizona State from Chattanooga. She went to Notre Dame. She's like the only Jewish girl who went to Notre Dame High School who was actually the homecoming queen. Yeah. It hurt. It hurt. We were dating for like 3 years, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I married a great one.
Yeah.
And I married Phyllis, my wife, who was the assistant director of the Hunter Museum at the time. And I was doing feature stories. Yeah. And so
you got to know her from doing feature stories.
I did a feature story. And I actually proposed to her on television.
Did you really?
It's the worst day of her life, she said. It was horrible. Phyllis is not like that. I just needed a story for July ratings. And we did it. And the way I did it, I proposed to her. Do you remember the opening of The Big Chill when they were dressing the body and you just saw?
Yes.
They were putting on
that was Kevin Costner.
Yeah. Well, it was just like they were putting on a tuxedo.
You never saw his face there. But
really?
That Kevin Costner was in that role.
So that's the way I did it. I proposed to her that way. You didn't know what was going on. And I just started it that way. And then I went to the phone that's outside the Hunter Museum and said, Phyllis, can I talk to you? And then it was a cliffhanger. I got 2 stories out of it. It was great for July ratings. And then it said, to be continued. But Phyllis was a great sport. I remember taking her when we were dating. I said, Phyllis, let's go. We're going to go to National Nudist Weekend in Crossville, Tennessee. And I said, Phyllis, you want to go with me to see what a story's like? She goes, absolutely. So Crossville, Tennessee, believe it or not, at that time had one of the largest nudist colonies in the nation.
Wow.
So
did you partake or did you just
No. These were not pretty bodies either.
Well, they never are.
They were. Oh, you're right. It's like, you know what? I wish you could tell who you wanted there, but these were UT professors too. Yeah. I was told that a lot of them were UT professors at this nudist camp. Everybody was playing volleyball and riding in those paddle boat rides. It was disgusting. So Phyllis and I always laugh about National Nudist Weekend. That was her first story she ever went on with me. And we remember pulling up and we were in the news car and this woman named B came out and goes, "Hi, I'm B." And she was naked. And I'm like, man, this is not going to go well. These are not pretty bodies. But it was
Were you married at this time? Or
no, we were just dating.
Just dating?
So we got married in 1989. We've been married since 1989. And then our daughter was born a year later, Caroline.
Yeah. So talk about your WRCB career, how you got to the morning show and
you know what, still to this day, there's nothing better than to be around TV people. It's just so much fun. I feel so relaxed and it's like, oh my God, these are my people. I mean, this is just, you just feel so relaxed. It's a true brotherhood. I know that sounds kind of, but you don't understand unless you've worked in a newsroom.
It's a small industry.
Oh, it's just, and just to talk about the wacko people that have come through, former photographers and reporters and editors. And I mean, there's a lot of weird people coming through this industry. Mm-hmm. Just to be around somebody like David Carroll, who knows everybody and he keeps track of all that stuff. Yeah. It's just so, you don't want the luncheon to end.
Yeah.
You just feel so good being around those people.
Well, and you spent a long time over there. What, 20 years?
God. No, 27 years.
27 years at WRCB?
And, you know, I will still say one of the nicest people I've ever worked with I cried on air when he left, was David Glenn.
Oh, yeah. David's great.
Tom Benson.
Yeah.
Latrice Curry.
Yeah.
Julie Edwards, Cindy, and I mean, David Carroll. It just goes on and on. And I remember working at Erlanger and they brought Latrice in.
Oh, wow.
She was sick. She almost died.
Yeah, she
literally had like 30 lines connected to her body. And I go, you know, I always told Latrice I never believed in miracles. I'm just not that. I don't know. I do now.
Yeah.
She lived and they were not going to let her die.
She's a miracle.
She is one of the finest people you'll ever meet.
Well, and I know you went to Erlanger and
yeah, Erlanger. It was a Civitan meeting. I used to be a member of the Civitan Club. Yeah. Don Muller, who was the CEO of the Children's Hospital,
who's coming back now.
He's coming back to the Siskin Foundation. Yep. They should have never have let him go in the first place. And I'm very vocal about that. They made some stupid decisions, like getting rid of Kevin Spiegel, the CEO, who loved living here, who built a house, who didn't want to leave. Of course, they had to let him go. But they hired me to be the director of marketing at Erlanger. And I'm like, wow.
Well, and that's what I want to ask about. It was
Don Muller who spoke, and I said, that's where I want to go to work.
But you're at RCB 27 years. You're an icon in the community. You're doing the morning show. You're doing well.
I could have still been there.
And I could tell you as a competitor, you know, I'm sitting over at Channel 9, and we hear, Jed's leaving Channel 3. The first thing is, great, because we're going to steal your audience.
Thank you.
And then the next one is, what's he going to do? What market is he going to? Well, he's going to Erlanger as vice president of marketing and communications. And honestly, Jed, that was a head scratcher. I'm like going,
yeah, it was the best 3 years.
Was it?
Oh my, it was just great. It was just.
What'd you learn?
I learned that jealousy is a killer.
Yeah. Oh boy, isn't it?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I learned how.
If you want to be happier in life, learn not to be envious or jealous.
You're right. And don't do that to other people. It's just, because the marketing team was very tough to work for because the head of the marketing department was passed over for this job.
So you're coming in having the job that this person wanted.
Yes.
That's hard.
But I made my own inroads there, did my own things, left a great impression on that hospital. And Kevin Spiegel was smart. He hired me because of who I was in this community. And basically, it was great PR for the hospital for me to be walking around the halls and to see people and families and for them to say, I know you, Jed.
Everyone knew
like,
you.
I'm here. It's okay. You're going to be fine.
You were in their living room every morning. And now that you were walking around and they saw you in their hospital room, that had to give them some comfort.
So smart. And, they would tell me that, well, so-and-so is in the hospital. Can you go by and say hello? And of course I can.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a brilliant move on his part. And to this day, we've lost contact. I was very close with his wife, Judy, who passed away in the condominium collapse in Florida.
Yeah, down in Miami. Yeah.
Just, when that news broke, you're like,
oh,
God,
I was shocked.
I wonder if that was Judy and Kevin's apart condominium. Just out of the blue, you're thinking, no. Wow. Kevin Spiegel came back and thanked Chattanooga for the support that they gave him.
I remember that.
We were at the Chattanooga Golf and Country Club, and he was speaking to a huge crowd. And he said the night of that collapse, his granddaughter, who lived in Miami, would always spend the night with Judy. Just loved Judy Spiegel. I mean, they had the greatest relationship. She was 3 or 4. And that night, Judy goes, you can't come tonight. My back is hurting me. Please, just let me just rest my back tonight. Tomorrow, you can come and play.
There's some divine intervention.
That was the night.
Yeah.
So we had a great relationship. Yeah. Judy and I did, and it was such an enjoyable job.
Yeah. How long were you there?
2.5, 3 years. And I remember the day that I signed an agreement that says, if you're ever let go, we're going to give you a year's severance. And I'm like, I came from the newsroom.
Yeah.
Where maybe they'd give you like a McDonald's gift certificate and some McNuggets.
Yeah. And then they tax you on it.
And then they tax you on it. That's a year's severance?
Wow.
It was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it was like, wow, just being treated that way.
Yeah.
It was so nice.
What did you do after that?
Went to TVFCU.
Yeah.
They could not have been nicer.
Good folks.
They rescued me when I needed it. Tammy Zumbrin was great.
And Tammy, great.
They were fantastic. They gave me that job. It was during COVID, which was really difficult to have to work from home and not go anywhere. It's like, work from home. I can't.
And my sense is you need people.
I need people.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest things about that job, they had a gym at their downtown headquarters. I could use the gym if I did it before anybody else got there in the morning, and everybody was at home. But I would go in at like 3:30 in the morning and use their gym, and then come back home and then go to work. And it was a great job. It's a fun job. And I'm such an impressive company. And they have a profit sharing program in December that the boss, your boss, has to go to your home and personally thank you for your hard work and gives you a profit sharing check.
What a great idea.
And I said, this needs to be told on the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
That your boss will come to your house, thank you for your hard work, and here's a thanks. It's a great place.
There's far too many companies that if they have a program like that or a bonus program, who just wait to let it show up in your check and don't interact with you or tell you, hey, you've done a great job this year, and here's the way we show you the appreciation.
My boss was John Merritt. Great guy.
John's
been there forever.
Yeah, sure has.
I said, John, can I meet you at the Food City parking lot on Signal Mountain Road? He goes, nope. Coming up. And then after that, I left, and this was a really interesting job. My sister died of anorexia, and my whole family's had a history of obsessive compulsive disorders that we've never really talked about. That's typical of a Jewish family. You just don't admit that there's any problems.
That's typical of a lot of families.
My sister had a 40-year struggle with anorexia, and she died at the age of 54, weighing like 70 pounds.
I'm sorry, Jed.
We were never close, unfortunately. I think about that all the time. But I wanted to do mental health. So I worked for Volunteer Behavioral Health, Johnson Mental Health Center, which is located on Bell Avenue in North Chattanooga. If you know where Brothers Pizza is or
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
What a facility.
Yeah.
Do you realize that one treatment center saw 3,000 people a month?
A month?
This company had 20 of those clinics. And I was in charge of the public relations for several of those clinics. They're based out of Murfreesboro and Chattanooga. It's like a $68 million company.
Wow.
And mental health, I'm telling you, you talk about some dedicated people who are not getting rich doing what they're doing, but they're God-given people.
Well, and mental health is something that is not a taboo, a subject as it used to be.
Right.
You know, it used to be Oh, you can't tell anyone you're going to talk to someone.
Yeah. And now I'm very open about any mental health issues and counseling and group therapy. I went to a funeral once. My friend's sister committed suicide, and the rabbi goes, there should never, ever be any secrets when it comes to mental health.
Hey, he's
and
right.
It's like,
or she's right.
He is absolutely right.
Yeah.
And to that day. So it was a good year. It was fun. Volunteer behavioral health. Great bosses.
So what led you back to media? Because you're now...
Okay, then
every
I went
morning
to Skyuka Hall.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped one.
Oh, yeah, and I was development director, and it was a difficult situation, but it's a great school. It serves a purpose in this town. I don't think they knew what to do with me. But then I saw that, hey, there was an opening for a program director at WGOW.
Yeah.
And so I applied for it. And Scott Chase, been there 38 years. What a class guy. Just will get right back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Just very nice person. And I've known Scott, and I've known all those people because I used to do 8 years of radio shows on Saturdays, Tuesdays. I used to do, when I was in 2008, when Channel 3 took a huge chunk of my salary, I had to find a way to put my daughter through college. So I started hosting those radio shows.
Yeah.
And I would do one show a week on Wednesday nights from 7 to 8. Then Thursday.
I remember those shows.
Then Friday. Then 2 Saturday morning. And
you were out selling those.
I was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Mike, I was obsessed with waking up and thinking who could buy these hour-long shows. So I would sell them for like $700 a show, and I would make like $200 a show. So
you're selling it, and
I'm selling like to Mark Warren. He would,
and he's doing a law show. I mean, Memorial Hospital, Erlanger. Yeah. It went on and on. Plumbing, electricity, whatever. And I remember a Memorial, we did a show on incontinence, and I'm like going, what? Oh my God. I've never seen so many calls on people who have peeing issues in this town. There's like 24 nonstop calls about incontinent problems in this town. It was so much fun to sell those shows. And it just, you know what? We did a gardening show. We did vet shows. We did mental health shows. I mean, I came up with every imaginable idea, and we made it work. So the transition for you to radio was not that big a leap because you'd been doing these.
Right, those shows. Working with JR is the best. I love that man. Intimidated by him. Could not be nicer to me. And I get it. And I know what I'm playing the role. I know I'm playing the little brother role to him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I play that on radio, and he gets it. Tom Benson was a great one who got it.
Yeah.
He never tried to, we just got it. We got the role. You know, we played well with each other.
So are you enjoying yourself now?
Hardest job I ever had in my life.
Yeah. Why is that?
Talking for 4 hours and coming up with stuff to talk about. Literally, I get up at 2:15, get to work at 2:45. I'll put together 6 newscasts. Then I'll come back up to my desk. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll just sit there and think about what are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
And I book guests. So JR's he's got it made. I'm going to take care of JR. He's been there 40 years. Mm-hmm. So I book all the guests for the morning show, write the lead-ins, pick the music.
What time you go live?
We go on from 6 to 10.
Yeah, that's
man.
hard.
Oh, man. And then you don't call in these days on Talks Radio. Everybody texts.
You know, I noticed that when we were over there.
Yes.
And I think
they hide behind those. They hide behind those. So like, you suck, Jed.
Yeah.
Bring Brian Joyce back. Where's Jeff Styles?
Yeah.
And then people go, Jed, you don't have to read all the text. Well, it's like, these are listeners.
Yeah.
This is the same thing as calling in. I'm just reading what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then, you think you got a great guest, and then people will text the Z's. It's like, this is just listeners. They're brutal sometimes. And that bothers me. Things like that do bother me.
Yeah.
They shouldn't. But I understand being in the media. So I'm a great target.
Yeah, you're out there. You put yourself out there.
Oh, yeah. Like yesterday, it was a big talk about squirrels. And JR and Art said, Art, what did you do this week? And he said he killed a squirrel. And I said, what? you killed a squirrel. And that brought everybody in. JR, it's like, yes, I killed a squirrel. Good. I'm glad you killed that squirrel. And then Max, who does the traffic, he got into the squirrel killing. And then everybody was saying, yeah. Have you ever tried squirrel stew? And how would you like to borrow my dog for the day and let him go after your squirrels? I was like, oh my God.
And you're an animal lover.
Yeah. And I knew.
They're picking on you.
I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
I know our audience.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Today it was a chainsaw. I'm like, I'd never have used a chainsaw before, but that would just be so manly just to walk around with a chainsaw. Because I was talking about I have a steel. Is it a still or steel?
I think they say steel.
Steel, but it's a blower, electric blower. And I go, man, sometimes I'll just walk around the neighborhood with that thing on with the backpack.
Oh, you wear the backpack?
It's just, it's the ultimate because, I don't really have any tools. Jewish guys don't really know how to do any of that stuff. But let me just say, just walking around that neighborhood with that blower on my back, it makes me like 10 feet tall. It just makes me feel good. I go, what do you do? I said, no, nothing. If somebody needs some leaves blown, I'll be more than happy to come to your house. So.
How long you been on radio now?
I started in August.
So
and let me tell you, Kevin West, who I love, I have his picture up on my desk.
Great guy.
We had booked a police officer who was part of the mental health team that would go out and diffuse situations. And we set that up for this Monday. I remember it. We set him up to have Brandon on. And I had to go through Kevin and we set it up and Brandon was great. He was on for like 15 minutes. And right after he was on, Kevin texted him and said, great job, Brandon. You sounded great about the police department getting involved with mental health. Boom.
That was so sudden.
He died.
Yeah.
Kevin died right after that text. Kevin West.
I know.
I would call people and tell them that Kevin died. And they go, are you joking?
Yeah.
It's like, am I joking? How would I even come up with something like that?
That's not a joke.
But
that was a big loss.
You look at somebody like that who got our industry, who loved it, but realized, when it comes to a future financially in media business, it's not going to happen for you unless you're an incredible saver.
Yeah.
So he joined the Navy
and
became a captain for 24 years and had that supplemental salary for the rest of his life and never got a chance to enjoy it.
I know. That's a shame. I liked Kevin.
Well, Mike, I just have loved this opportunity to be with you.
Well, you've been great, and I'm going to do something that you have to do every morning on your radio show, which is pay a bill. I've got to let you know that we are sponsored by the Tennessee Valley Authority, and I do thank them for making this possible. They sponsor my morning cup, and you can follow TVA on social media to learn more about its multifaceted mission of service. Visit TVA.com/do good here to explore exciting TVA career opportunities.
And let me tell you, I've got a TVA-sponsored morning cup now.
I know you do.
So I will drink that with pride.
Well, I'm going to ask you one last question. What would you tell your 25-year-old self is important for a happy life?
Not be in a hurry to look to different horizons. And I think the most important thing that I ever did was I woke up one morning after like 15 years of being in Chattanooga, and I pulled out of my driveway and I said, wow, I've got a house. My wife is inside. My daughter, she's getting a great education. Why can't you be happy? Why can't you be happy right where you are? And I think that was the most freeing moment ever when I said, you know what? I love living here and I'm happy here and the people are great. And when you can have that self-satisfaction without looking towards larger TV markets or larger radio markets, you've made it.
We've gone through similar experiences. I thought I'd be here 2 years.
Yeah.
And then on to the next thing. And you start to look around and you start to count your blessings as opposed to what you don't have.
Yep. And I'm going to tell you, when I applied for a job, like I was in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm like, I would love to get back to Atlanta. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready. So I sent an audition tape. And remember, I told you about my friend Tim Lake, who was the anchor at Charleston Station, who was so nice to me. So we did a little set piece where Tim's introducing me, and then I'm like, oh, thank you, Tim. And I turned to the camera. So I sent that audition tape to WSB. Don't ever do that if you're in the business, if the guy sitting next to you is better than you are, because he got the job offer. Jed, you're good, but that Tim Lake guy, the guy who introduced you on the set, that's the guy we want. Son of Newman. It's another Newman moment. Listen, I wish you well, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks for listening to My Morning Cup, a podcast by Costa Media Advisors. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend. I release a new episode each week, so be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts.